Hello there. Good morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever it is where you are. Associates of New Mexico, a niche subject for a niche channel. But first, this is Whiskey for Beginners, and so although, as you have no doubt already discerned, this is a sipping and talking video, I gotta have some sipping. Oh. Let's see if you can see just how easy this cork comes out. Easiest cork I've ever had. I had a bottle of Hard Truth High Road Rye, and you needed a team of bulldozers and 42 men to pop that cork. As for the whiskey, it's Bulleit 10-year. As you can see, I've drunk a bit of it. I like Bulleit. I will tell you now that of the 3 Bulleits I've had so far, where the label is, I'm not going to be able to get everything in there. Of the 3 Bulleits I've had so far, the regular, this, and the barrel strength, I like the barrel strength best and the regular second. This is Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, aged 10 years. It is 91.2 proof. I don't know the mash bill. It claims to be Frontier Whiskey. I think it was Tom Bulleit who started this. He claimed that he was using an old family recipe from the 1800s. I always wind up having to scooch over. You'd think I'd learned by now. If you knew me, you might not think so. But there are different things you can do with the same mash bill, the same recipe. One is to age it longer. One is to make it higher proof. One is to do it straight from the barrel. One is, there are various things. And I like all the Bulleit whiskey I've had so far. I've not had their bottled in bond. I've seen good reviews. And I saw one guy on MeWe who just hated the ever-living guts of it. Smells good though. But Associates of New Mexico, I had an appointment today. It's been about 12 hours now since I was in with the eye doctor. And I'm not going to go into the whole long story because that would take up the whole video. But the upshot of it is I knew I needed new glasses, and I got the prescription for that, put in the order. And for these progressive bifocal lenses, only $400, not even that, $386, which is only $100 more than I paid for these 5 years ago. I paid $300 for these, and that was with an employee discount at Sam's Club, so $400 is not outrageous for what I'm getting. Turns out I also have cataracts. Now, they're not any big deal. They're right in the beginning stages. Doctor said probably won't need surgery for a couple of years. And my wife had cataract surgery several years ago. It didn't improve her vision enough to where she could keep on driving. She's got other things going on with her eyes that are not fixable. They're genetic. She was born that way. And so she's retired, and she works harder around the house than she ever did working out, I believe. Very caramelly and vanilla-y. Vanilla-y? It's full of vanilla and caramel. But with the new prescription, my vision in my left eye will be 20/20. My right eye, if I didn't have it, I'd hardly notice the difference. It's that bad. And it's been that way my whole life. But the reason I went there is the way they've treated my wife. She's been a patient at Eye Associates in New Mexico for, I don't remember how many years. It's been a good many. And she's had 4 doctors over that time. Initially, Dr. Molly Ritzema, who is the sweetest lady you'll ever meet. Then there was Dr. Gregory Ogawa, who did the cataract surgery, a wonderful gentleman. Then came Dr. Ashok Reddy at the Eye Associates Retina Center, because after the surgery she needs regular checkups to make sure that everything is fine. I guess I'll be doing that in a few years. And then now she's got, I can't remember his first name, but the last one is Golubev, and he, if I remember right, is from Belarus. And my wife doesn't care for him, but that's a 75% wonderful rate. Not just good, wonderful. And they have treated her wonderfully well the whole time. The doctor I saw today, and who I'll be seeing at least once a year for the next couple of years, maybe further, was Devin Fillmore, a young guy. He walked in and I thought he was a tech, because he looked like he was maybe 20. But very gentle, very kind, very friendly. He explained things in plain English, which sometimes people with great expertise in the field forget how to speak, if they ever knew. Definitely alcohol there, although it, what did I say it was? 91.2 proof, which is not high proof at all. That's just barely above my minimum proof for bourbon. But today my nose seems to be sensitive to it, even on the left side. The right side always is sensitive to alcohol. So vanilla, caramel, I've already mentioned those. There's maybe some caramel corn, not caramel corn, candy corn in there. My granddaughter, when she was young, called it candy corns. Or as people would put it today, candy corns. I like the Brokenwood Mysteries by, I just recently began getting into them. It's a New Zealand series. And today I was watching the 2nd episode of season 2 on DVD, and Kristen Sims, the junior the middle, never mind that, she talked about somebody being dead. She didn't say dead, or even dead. I have to work not to sound Texan. She said dead. Why do people do that? They chop the vowels down to nothing, and then they turn a T into a hiss. They turn a terminal S into a hiss. You know, instead of homes, they say homps. What's a homp? Instead of drones, they say dronts. What's a dront? I don't remember how I got onto that. No big deal. Oh, candy corns. It's not candy corns. It's candy corns, as my granddaughter used to say it. She's 20 now. There's honey there. Maybe a hint of some smokiness. I like smokiness in a whiskey. On the first sip I look for mouthfeel, but sometimes the flavor will hit me so much that I forget to do that. And on this, for the very first time with this Bulleit 10-year, I got a burst of a honey lemon cough drop. and that it surprised me so much I utterly forgot about the mouthfeel. But I know that I have, as I record this, I have 57 subscribers. Thank you, every single one. There are much better channels out there with much better people doing them, much better quality, and yet you've subscribed to mine, so thank you. But I doubt that any of y'all, I haven't even gone through the subscriber list. I suppose Yahoo would let me. I've not tried. But I wouldn't expect that any of y'all are in Albuquerque or even New Mexico. Maybe 56 are, who knows. But it seems doubtful. But if you are here in Albuquerque, or for that matter in Santa Fe, they have an office up there, and you need eye care, and you don't need it urgently, it's something that can wait, I highly recommend Eye Associates. And the reason I say if it can wait, I made the appointment in, I believe, January. And here it is September, and I just now got the appointment. It's been almost a year since the problem arose that led me to make the appointment. They're a very busy place, and that's for a very good reason. They're very good. Let me get another sip here. The mouthfeel is kind of thin, as you would expect for 91 point whatever proof. You don't expect anything thick and creamy at that proof, but it's not watery. It might not take much more to make it watery, but as it is, it's not bad. It's about what you'd expect from that proof, and so I'm not complaining. Where was I on Eye Associates? I don't know. I don't script anything, especially not sipping and talking. This is just me sitting here sipping whiskey, and I open my mouth and something comes out. Maybe it's even worth hearing sometimes. The honey lemon is there again. Maybe a little sweeter than honey itself is. And in addition, there was the taste of the white stuff from inside an orange peel. I think that's what they call the zest. I'm not sure. I've looked it up 2 or 3 times, but some things I see once and I can never lose them. Some things I can look up every day for a month and never remember them. But I think that's the zest. Now, when you're getting into that, you don't want to go too deep or you get bitter. But when I was a kid long ago, I learned you can scrape the white off with your teeth and the inside of the peel, and it tastes good, as long as you don't go too deep. And I got some of that in here. Yeah, the nose is not getting more complex. This is not the most complex whiskey I've ever had from Bulleit. As I say, of the 3 I've had, this is my 3rd favorite. I like the barrel strength and the regular more than this. I like this, but they're better, in my judgment. When I finally take a sip and hold it in my mouth and move it around, I get some definite oak in there in addition to everything else I've mentioned. And there are some channels which will show the sip and then immediately go to the person describing it. They edit out the and I prefer they not do that. Some people want edits. Some people like it where the guy talks for 3 seconds, jump cut, 5 seconds, jump cut, 10 seconds, jump cut, 4 seconds, jump cut. I hate that. Even if I had the facilities for that, I wouldn't do it. If I was doing so badly on a video that the only way to make it even semi-watchable was a jump cut every few seconds, I would just trash it and record again. That's my style. I'm a WYSIWYG guy. And if you weren't around in the BBSing days back in the 90s, I've been online since 1992. If you weren't around back then, WYSIWYG is an acronym. What you see is what you get. You see me sitting here in my cowboy shirt, my mustache. That's how I comb my hair. I have not put a comb to my hair in years. I get out of the shower, I do that, it dries. You know, what you see is what you get. And what time? Okay, I'm only at 17 minutes, not quite 17. I try to keep these semi-short for various reasons. I know sometimes I want to spend the time on an hour-long video, and I don't have the time because I have other videos to watch. I'm subscribed to several channels under 2 different of my own channels, plus everything else I do. And so I understand that not everybody is able to watch an hour-long video. I try to keep mine about 20 minutes. I try. Every rare once in a while I succeed. But a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? That was Robert Browning. Not my favorite poet, but that's a pretty good line and a valid statement. In addition to everything else I've talked about already, on that sip, right at the front of my tongue, under my tongue, and going back this way, I got this blast of cinnamon and brown sugar. And in addition to the whiskey in my mouth, all of a sudden I was salivating. And I thought for a second I was going to wind up drooling whiskey. It was just that sudden and that much. It's because of where it happened. That cinnamon and that brown sugar were right there. I guess they hit my salivary glands. But it was an interesting and tasteful experience. I'm not changing my ranking. This is still my 3rd favorite of the Bulleit whiskeys I like. I've had. All of those I've had, I do like. But that was better than I'm used to from this 10-year bottle. Now, I showed you earlier how low it is, and you can see it's not even up here behind the label. It's right about there, I believe. In fact, I think you can see on the camera, maybe. But that means there's a lot more air in the bottle and a lot less whiskey, so there's a lot more interaction between the whiskey and the air. Now, if I was only drinking out of this once a month, say, I would pour it into a smaller bottle so there would be less interaction. Whiskey does not go bad, but it does change as the chemicals in the whiskey interact with the elements in the air. And so the less interaction, the less change. The more change, the more the change may be in a direction you don't like. But I have so few bottles on hand that I go through my entire rotation about once a week, so I don't worry about that. But if you're new to whiskey and you're not drinking through anything very quickly, when it gets low, say a third or thereabouts, find a smaller bottle, and you might have to save up for this, and pour it in there to reduce the interaction. It's nice when a whiskey opens up, but if there's too much change, then you might not like the results. I got a smaller blast of the cinnamon and brown sugar, but that time, in addition to everything else I've already mentioned, I got a little bit of butter in there. And I'm one of the few reviewers I know of who gets butter on whiskey. And I get it. It's not routine necessarily, but I get it now and then, often enough that it's a familiar note to me. On the subject of saving things, save corks. I'm not going to save this one. In fact, I haven't saved any in a while because I have a single bottle paper bag that's about half full of used corks. And there have been a couple of 3 occasions where having a cork that I could grab and stick in a bottle proved useful. That's all the corks I've had break. There was one, it didn't break. I can't remember why I replaced it. But like I say, 2 or 3 times I've had to replace a cork. And you may not have one that exactly fits the bottle. When I replaced the cork on, it was a hard true sweet mash rye, that cork broke. And the closest fit I could find was too big. I could get it far enough down, about halfway into the neck of the bottle, well, half of the cork into the neck of the bottle, that it made a sufficient seal. But it didn't fit exactly, and after that I chucked the cork because it was too messed up to reuse. But save corks. I found out the hard way that the advice I had seen to save corks is good advice. And you may not break a cork a year, but when one does break, and sooner or later, especially a natural cork will break, then you want something you can use. The nose hasn't changed any, but as you've seen, the palate has been changing as it goes along. The level in the glass is way down, and in the glass you get interaction with air also, and more quickly than in the bottle. Meanwhile, I'm at 23 minutes, so if you've been watching these new arrangement videos where I'm recording on my phone, you know that when I move the bottle, I'm going to give a toast and hit the button. If you don't know that yet, now you do. Yeehaw!